was thinking, are you an introvert or an extrovert? Or you're thinking yourself, you're an extrovert, but you're actually introverted. Or you're thinking that you're introverted, but you're actually extroverted. You just got confused, didn't you? I know I did. So, no. Okay, so we're gonna be talking about a book that I did this book review, but I'm gonna do it again. It's called The Power of Introvert. Well, Quiet by Susan. I don't want to butcher her last name, but it's a great book on introversion. Um, I am not. I am introverted, but also extroverted. You can be both. Why? You well, you change your personality when you interact with people. You change of who you are. You just you. I mean, you are who you are, but you change slightly to adapt to the level of your friends or your family. You change. You're like what was it? I, I can't remember of that thinking. But when it comes to introverted, right? We live in a world that push us to be an introverted, but we're actually introverted. And we like to be introverted. And we love it because it gives us freedom. We don't have to be surrounded by the noise of people all the time. I mean, that's why most introverted like nature, like to be in to themselves. They want to because it. Let's say in the daily life of people in America, they force you to be extroverted, to be sociable. That means if you're sociable, more likable, you're more, you know, that's how you. That's how most people live in this America world. They're extrovert. They think they're extrovert, but they're introvert. Now, when it comes to the subject, I sometimes think about people try to force their personality onto another. I mean, it's the same thing as people try to force other, people on other things, but they haven't really understand to the person to the point that when you are understanding that when it comes to introverted, they like to spend time with themselves, meaning um, I get my energy. Where do I get my energy from? Do I get my energy going out parties, and hanging out with lots of friends? No, I usually like my downtime. I usually like to keep things. Well, I don't keep things to myself. I like to talk still. I mean, I believe that too many people think that introverted don't talk. They do talk. I usually like to socialize. We're social creatures. I don't care what that is. We're social creatures, and that we like to socialize people who are like-minded like us, like connections. Whatever subject that you're into, you talk, right? But extroverts are more like they say they're outgoing, they're socialized, they do things that um, out of ordinary or something like that. And I was thinking about how I'm thinking of people don't really study these type of things until you realize great things come from introvert. I mean, of course, also extrovert, but truly great things come from introverted. I believe that most of the thing that I found out in this book was crazy, right? Like not crazy, but it's in a good way. Like I the guy I look up to, Bob Proctor, you hear a lot, and then the guy I interview, Evan Carmichael, he's introverted. Like Bob Proctor is introverted, but then you think like, if he's truly introverted, how come he's so gregarious and he talks on stage and he's so loud? Because introverted develop the skill set to be uncomfortable to do things that they need to do. That's why they go out of the comfort zone. They do speaking engagement. Most people are afraid to speak, right? They fear to speak in front of thousands of audience, right? That fear, right? So most of the top entrepreneurs are introverted, right? And I never thought that the people who I read are introverted. Guy Kiyosaki, um, this book, right? Guy Kiyosaki, he is Guy Kiyosaki is the former chief evangelist of Apple. He is also the co-founder of alltop.com, an online magazine rank of popular topics on web, and a founding partner at Garage. Can't read that Technology Ventures. His 9 previous books include the international bestseller The Art of Start, as well as the Reality Check and the Mont. Uh, I can't say that right, but yeah, he's introverted. I thought he was extroverted, but he isn't. And the guy who the Darren Harley, he write the Compound Effect. I didn't know he was introverted until he. I was looking at his Facebook post, and he's like, don't quote me on it. He's like, he don't like dislike networking, and he's an introverted, but he learned how to do it. And a lot of people who are entrepreneurs who you think are extroverted are introverted. They like Elliot Hose, the guy I look up to. He is a bodybuilder. He's an introverted because he's. I remember he was like saying that when he's surrounded by people, it get a lot to him, and what he does is he sit on like a I don't know what that called. I forgot. But he sit there and either he recharges by listening to music or something. I forgot. But he's introverted, right? And you question sometimes how come these great entrepreneurs are introverted, and yet we as society we push these introverted to be extroverted, but they're comfortable in their own skin, and they learn to be by themselves. Usually, great things come from by yourself. Because I mean, you can have a mastermind with people, but to truly like do great things in life, I think it's also about focus and um to really because usually people in their daily life why they have problems because they never have reflection, they never have introspection of themselves, and changing their ways of habits and doing things in their own life in their own way. They haven't changed. They're in the motion of doing things, so they keep going and going and never they fail to look within themselves because we humans have the ability to look within ourselves. That's introspection, to be able to refine our thoughts and patterns to change and to be able to adapt to this world. And what's amazed me is that I interview a Wing Chun Kung Fu master. He talked about the Asian culture versus the American culture. Um, Now it's not vice versa. I know people get pissed at this. No, no. What I meant was the American culture is more like they want to be extroverted, right? While the Kung Fu master he talked about yin from yang, meaning that the Asian culture is the feminine, while the um, American is more masculine, right? They learn to yield from yang, right? And they're more introverted, introspection, than the American, which is social, extroverted. And it's really funny how you look at things how from a different lens, right? So I'll read a little bit. Yet today we make room for a remarkable narrow range of personality style. We told that to be great, to be bold, to be happy is to be sociable. We see ourselves as a nation of extroverts, which means that we lost sight of who we really are. Depending on which study you consult, 1/3 to one half of Americans are introverts in the world. 1 out of every 2 or 3 people you know, given that the United States is among the most extroverted of nations, the number must be at least high in other parts of the world. If you're not introverted yourself, you're surely raising, managing, married to, or coupled with one. If these statistics surprise you, that's probably because because so many people pretend to be extroverts. Closet extroverts pass undetected on playgrounds, in high school, locker rooms, and in the corridor of corporate America. Some fool even themselves until some life event, a layoff, a empty nest, an inheritance that frees them to spend time as they like. Jolt them into taking stock of their true nature. You have only to rise the subject of this book when your friends are acquaintances to find that the most unlikely people consider themselves introvert, introverts, themselves introverts. It makes sense that so many introverts hide even from themselves. We live with a value system that I call extrovert ideal. Omnipresent belief that the ideal self is gregarious, alpha, confident in the spotlight. The archetypal extrovert prefers action to contemplation, risk-taking to heed-taking, certainty to doubt. He favors quick decision even at the risk of being wrong. Um, I guess is a different person. She works well in teams and socializes in group. We would like to think that we value individuality, but in all too often we admire one type of introvert, the kind who comfortable putting himself out there. Sure, we allow technology and technical logical gift learner who launch company in garages to have a personality they please, but they are the exception, not the rule. And our tolerance extends mainly to those who get fabulous wealthy or hold the promise of doing so. Introversion, along with its cousin sensitivity, seriousness, and shyness, is now a second-class personality traits, somewhere between a disappointment and pathology. Introvert living under the extrovert ideal are like women in a man world. It's kind of because of that trait that goes to core of who they are. Extroversion is an extremely appealing personality style, but we turn into oppression standard to which most of us feel we must conform. The extrovert ideal has been documented in many studies through that this research has never been grouped under a single name. Uh, Talkative people, for example, are rated as smarter, better looking, more interesting, and more desirable as friends. Philosophy of speech counts as well as volume. We rank fast talker as more competent and likable than slow one. And then, here we go. Introverts often work more slowly and deliberately. They like to focus on one task at a time, can have mighty power of concentration. They relatively immune to the lures of wealth and fame. Our personality also shape our social style. Extroverts are the people who will add life to your dinner party, and laugh gregariously at your jokes. They tend to be assertive, dominant, and in great need of company. Extroverts think out loud and on their feet. They prefer talking to listening, rather find themselves at loss for words. Constantly blunt out things they never meant to say. They're comfortable with conflict, but not with solitude. Introverts, in contrast, maybe have strong social skills and enjoy parties and business meetings, but after a while, wish they were home in their pajamas. They prefer to devote their social energy to close friends, colleagues, and family. They listen more than they talk, think before they speak, and often as if they express themselves better rather than in conversation. They tend to dislike conflict. Many have a horror of small talk, but enjoy deep discussion, which I do. I like. I dislike small talk, but I love when the people I meet have an open mind and we start talking on subject that we most people don't talk about. You know, most people talk about their daily life, of course, but we don't. I want to go into the place where a like-minded person have amazing ideas that make you think and change your life. A few things of introverts are not. The word introvert is not synonymous for hermit or misanthrope. Introvert can be these things, but most are perfectly friendly. Not all introvert necessarily shy. Shyness is the fear of social disapproval or humiliation, while introversion is preference for environments that are not overstimulating. Shyness is inherently painful. Introversion is not. One reason that people confuse the two concepts is that they sometimes overlap. So psychologists debate to what degree. Some psychologists map the two tendencies on vertical and horizontal axis, with the introverted extrovert spectrum on the horizontal axis, And the ancient stable set spectrum on the vertical. With this model, you end up with four quadrants of personality: calm, extroverts, anxious, or impulses extrovert, calm introverts, and anxious introverts. In other words, you can be shy extrovert, like Barbara Stern, or who have a larger than life personality and paralyzed stage fright, or a non-shy introvert like Bill Gates, who by all accounts keeps to himself, but is unfazed by the opinions of others. You can also, of course, be both shy and introvert. T.S. Eliot was a famous private soul who wrote The Wasteland that he could show you fear in a handful of lust. Thus, not lust. Many shy people turn inward, partly as refuge from socializing that causes them anxiety. And many introverts are shy, partly as receiving the message that there's something wrong with their preference for reflection. And partly their sociologies we see compel them to withdraw from high simulation environments. Which is true, because when we introvert, when it's our brain, um, uh, it's overload, or when our energies start to deplete, we start uh, withdrawing from those activity that drain our energy, and we back off and we start to be by ourselves again to recharge. And it actually does recharge you when you do your own thing, whether they read a book, enjoy themselves, study, or whatever that is, their preference. They go inward. And to be honest, I really like going inward, because, or doing things to recharge myself, because to be honest, sometimes it's exhausting. I mean, it's fun to be with a friend. Usually, I'm loud when I'm with my friends. I mean, or with my brothers, I'm loud. But when it comes to time for me, I'm still, it's funny. I'm still loud either way. I mean, I like to be by myself, but I'm still loud either way, because I like to fantasize. I like to, take like uh, my uh, um, I like to role play. There you go. I like to role play myself as a future hero going to the past and saving the past from being destroyed, from the past being well destroy the future. You know what I'm talking about, like stuff like that. It's awesome. And yeah, it's I think Albert Einstein is also introverted. He used more of his right brain. So yeah, it's a good thing to be introverted. So never let anyone forces you to be who you're not, for introvert or extrovert. Because there was a story in that book. She talked about there's this Asian guy, and he was in Harvard. Harvard is like more extroverted, people socialize and stuff like that. And he was uncomfortable that, because he's truly introverted, but they, he I can't remember exact story, but um, he was having trouble fitting in, or a lot of people. The thing is, most people want to fit in, but I'm saying like he was having trouble fitting in because he was not an extroverted like those people. They're not outgoing. He was more. I can't remember if he was quiet and stuff like that. He's not. Let's say he's not gregarious, right? To the person who's in Harvard, who's an extrovert, so to speak. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There's nothing wrong with you. Just accept who you are, accept that you're an introverted. So, extroverted and introvert, right? Um, I think I told this where extrovert get their energy from people and hanging with them, while introvert get their energy and recharge from themselves. I mean, but the thing is, even if you're introverted or extrovert, whatever, we're hardwired to socialize. Whether that be your family, your friends, and stuff like that, you're wired to talk to people closest to you, whatever that is. We're humans. We need people in our life. That's it. That's pretty much it. Subscribe to my channel, like my video, because I do book reviews, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.